Good morning, July 5th, 2020. I'm sorry, July 6th, 2020. Glad to be here with you today. Hopefully, everybody had a great holiday weekend. It was certainly nice. Ours turned out great. The weather looked like it was going to rain, and turned out we had some beautiful sunshine. I think every neighborhood in the city must have had their own fireworks celebration, but anyways, hopefully it all looked like everything turned out safe, and it was a safe weekend. So. We certainly hope you had a good weekend, and we're moving on into this week. A couple of things we wanted to go over, first starting with COVID cases, that we now have 2,809 positive cases for COVID-19 in Escambia County, according to Florida Department of Health. The last update from the state showed a 15.2% positive test rate for July 4th, 11.9% for July 3rd, and 11.9% for, I guess this is July 5th, although Casey, you have June 25th, but I'm assuming that's July 5th. The number of COVID-19 hospitalizations is at 116 as of yesterday, July 5th. For reference, there were 46 COVID-19 hospitalizations exactly 1 week ago. So again, we went up significantly last week. Last week, City Council unanimously passed an emergency ordinance requiring face coverings to be worn inside businesses in the city limits of Pensacola. This ordinance includes the same requirements as the emergency order I issued on Friday, but with some different penalties. We're expecting voluntary compliance and are approaching enforcement from an educational standpoint at this time. For more information about the order and the exemptions that apply, visit cityofpensacola.com. So visit cityofpensacola.com. I will say, this weekend I had to go several places on Friday, and I was amazed at how many people I saw. Nearly everywhere I went had masks. I went to Lowe's, Home Depot, celebrations for my wife, but you know what was interesting to me is every single place I went in, the employees came to me, and I realized there are a lot of people out there who aren't excited about wearing masks, and I understand. But let me tell you the story. When you hear it from the employees and they come up to you, several of them pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I want to thank you for the ordinance, because I've been wearing masks here and I've been worried because nobody's wearing masks to protect me. Thank you for doing this. It makes me feel safer about where I can come into work." So again, I think these are important things to know. It's also important to realize that in the middle of June, we're not even in the middle of July, the middle of June, we hit 1,000 cases. We are now at almost 3,000 cases. So this shows what we've had ramp up in the last 3 weeks. So we've had substantial increases on almost everything we've had. So just kind of want to talk some about that. I'm sure there'll be some further questions. We continue to watch at this particular time. Everything seems to be mostly in a yellow state at this point. We're observing and seeing how this is going to work. Again, the biggest things we can ask you to do: wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands. Those three things are vitally important. If we can stay on those three things, we'll continue to try to push our numbers down. And if we get our numbers down, we can get back to a point where we can make changes and other things we're doing. But for right now, I really need all of you in the city to wear a mask. It's helping to prevent spread and keep our numbers down. Also, this week we'll be starting with the Citizens Police Advisory Committee meeting. The first Citizens Police Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 9th at 5:30 in City Council chambers. Some media may be attending virtually. Some members may be attending virtually, and members of the public may attend via live stream with live video available at cityofpensacola.com/video. This meeting is for organizational purposes only, and the committee will not be taking any action. So there will not be an opportunity for public input. Opportunities for public input will be provided at future meetings where action will be taken. Plus, we will be having probably some virtual town halls where we will be taking input from the public. So we do expect to be doing that. This July, join Play Pensacola and the City of Pensacola Parks and Recreation Department for Park and Recreation Month as we celebrate this the selfless passion and essential work of park and recreational professionals who are providing services that are vital to a healthy Pensacola. I had a chance to be out in some of our parks over the weekend. They do an amazing job. We have incredible quality parks that you can almost, you don't have to go very far to find a park. So almost anywhere in the city, you're close to a park and you can find one. And our individuals with Parks and Recs do an amazing job. I got to get back out and do a work day with those guys as soon as we can get back out to doing work days again and other stuff that's happening. But Parks and Recreation Month is an initiative of the National Recreation and Park Association, which encourages people to support parks and recreation and share their park and recreation story. You can do that by sending out pictures of yourself with hashtag We Are Parks and Rec. We invite you to celebrate with us this month and explore one of our 93 parks that are open spaces in the city. One of those parks is over on Langley, and we are where we are building the soccer fields right there where the old YMCA was. We're going to be putting in a roundabout where Hilltop and Langley come together, and that will be the new entrance into the new what was the Y area, which will have the soccer fields. Construction for the Langley Avenue roundabout project will begin Monday, July 13th at 6 a.m. This project is intended to provide safety entrance and exit to Hitzman Park complex, as well as regulate the flow of traffic on Langley Avenue. The project incorporates many aesthetic enhancements, including lush landscaping, brick paver surfaces, and low impact development practices. Construction is expected to take 90 days, weather permitting, and traffic will be detoured in the area. Finally, the next mayor's cleanup will be Saturday, July 25th in the Northwest Pensacola. The mayor's neighborhood cleanup allows residents in cleanup areas to leave eligible items at the curb and on cleanup day for pickup by the City of Pensacola Sanitation Services. The cleanup includes bulk items such as household appliances, furniture and mattresses, bicycles and toys, tires, and old paint. Learn more at cityofpensacola.com. And that's really all I have today. Obviously, we've got a lot of things that are going on active out in the city, and so we will be having a lot of things happen through this weekend and next week. I do believe, we hope, and I can see Keith. I know y'all probably can't see him, but I think he's supposed to have a report to me tomorrow that we will be providing to City Council in advance of their vote on the monument on July 14th. So we expect to have that here very shortly. Otherwise, I hope everybody had a great 4th, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, at this point, we actually don't have any questions. I know there's a bit of a delay, so if we want to hang out for a few seconds, we can, but I'm not seeing any questions right now.
I just want you to know that Keith's backdrop now is the Arc de Triomphe, and so it looks like he's in Paris right now, even though I think he's just across the hall, but he's perfectly framed right under the arch.
All right, we have our first question from Andrew McKay. He said, are the barricades up at Lee Square, and will they stay up indefinitely?
They'll stay up until there's a decision, but which will be next week. We had planned to put those up this week, but obviously with some of the things that happened last week, we felt like it was probably good to go ahead and put those up in advance, and they will be up through the vote, and we'll know what's going to happen one way or another on July 14th.
And this question does not have a name with it. 1 second. Sorry, I think I missed one, but I'm going to go to the one I just saw. What is the future of the BLM mural? Is it going to be repaved? Have you received permit requests for other murals on streets?
I don't know of any other murals at this particular time that we've received. I mean, it's there. I mean, obviously, there is a CRA project anticipation that at some point A Street will be resurfaced and things will happen. But until that happens, it's there. It's there. I think it's a great source of pride in that area. I saw it last week. I drove over it. You know, one of the interesting parts about it is it really has helped with our speeding problems some on A Street. It has slowed traffic down on A Street. So we have not, you know, in a lot of ways, from a traffic engineering standpoint, it's been good. It has slowed people down on A Street, which is a good thing. But I mean, these were the little things that whether it was Strong Towns talk about these kind of things. Peter Kayama that talks about creating little love notes in communities. It's amazing what art can do and its ability to do that. And I think at some point, the same thing, I know when I talked to Kyle Cole about the trestle and why, that location, because it is a terrible location from public safety standpoint, but he said, it's what art does and the ability of and I think we've seen that in different places. So I certainly think it's something that can work. It is not cheap to do necessarily, but again, it was for the groups, we had a process, we have a process, but at this particular time, we haven't had any other groups necessarily, and it will stay there until we have some kind of stuff done on A Street. But again, I think it serves as both a community rallying point, and it really has helped bring down traffic speed on A Street. So, there's certainly some good byproducts of that.
This is from Jeremy. Has the city received anything in the way of a lawsuit from Crawford's family?
I don't know. I don't know of anything right now, and seeing that I don't see Susan on here, I don't know, but I haven't heard of anything.
And this is also from Jeremy. Has the city been approached regarding the future of any of the city's other statues or monuments, such as the Columbus bust at City Hall?
No, we haven't anybody reach out to us. Obviously, we're all sort of familiar now with what is the council's format. If anybody wanted to bring something, they could bring it to council. Council would have to vote on it, decide to take it in 30-day period, and then be able to vote. So we're certainly now aware of the policy and the ordinance, but we haven't received any. No one else has called about any other monument.
And this is from Rebecca at Channel 3. Do you think Pensacola businesses should be required to publicly disclose COVID cases among their staff, like Restaurant Iron did? It's kind of a double-edged sword. I certainly think it's one of those things that we had done that a lot with different things that happen here at the city, but then you realize there are HIPAA and personal issues and exclusions. So it's kind of a thing that goes back and forth. I think the closer you are to dealing with individuals, I think things like where we had assisted living facilities and those kind of things, where you are more the closer you are to dealing with someone's life, probably the more apparent it is to disclose that and have that information out there. Whereas I think some things probably aren't is much of an issue. Knowing if somebody in an office building has it, I don't think it really cares if nobody's going in the office. But is it a matter of disclosure? I think that's where I think we'll have to look and see certainly places much higher than the city and the county and local government if they decide the issues that are there for personal rights and HIPAA versus the community and what we have a balance of. And I think that probably you'll see that kind of stuff happen in legislators both at the state and the federal level. And I think those are good discussions for them to have. I don't know that there's a magic answer, but I would tend to think at those levels where individuals have more impact on other people's health, which is probably things like assisted living and restaurants, is probably where you see the greatest impact, as opposed to some of the other ones. You get to retail, you get to some others, and it just kind of goes down the line from there. But I mean, certainly from that standpoint, I think that will be debated as we move forward at, like I said, at levels of government that are much higher than local, and see what happens. This is from Jeremy. Have you spoken further with Cedric Alexander about the direction of the Citizens Committee, or the direction the Citizens Committee will take, or are y'all waiting until after this initial informational meeting?
I think the idea, Jeremy, we've said for a long time, is for us to sit down with them, get ideas from them in the community. I mean, I certainly look to Cedric. He's got expertise. That's why we hired him. That's why we brought him in, the things he's done for us. So, I mean, I'm going to rely a lot on his expertise and look for him to figure out what we need to be doing.
And this is from Andrew McKay. There seems to be a discrepancy between the hospitalization numbers on the Pensacola dashboard and the FDOH numbers. FDOH says only 21 Escambia and 14 Santa Rosa over the last week. Are the dashboard numbers higher because of non-residents?
Andrew, I have no idea what DOH does for their hospitalizations, and this is why I quit following it back in April, because I couldn't figure out anything they didn't seem to do adding up. I get every hospital to send me their data. They do send me who tests, what their positive rates are, but it's so hard to compile all that. The one thing that has been the most of interest to me is the hospitalizations, and we have been compiling that. That is an active number every day. They can either admit new people in, they can let people go. It fluctuates up and down. And like I said, for about a month and a half, it fluctuated between 22 and 9, generally almost every day. And then all of a sudden it just took off. And like I said before, I think you heard we were at 46 on last Monday. We are now at 116. So we've had a significant increase up. If you look at things that I also get from West Florida, it's an interesting one. West Florida has cumulative since the start of March. The hospitalizations they show, I think, are like 96 people. 51 of them are currently in the hospital. So, I mean, that shows how much, you had in and out through April, through May, through the beginning of June. You'd have a couple of people come in, they'd go out, but what they're saying is really within the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, we've seen as many people go in the hospital as went the whole basically 2.5 months, almost 3 months before that. So, just those things just show some of the challenges that our different hospitals are seeing. We have it every single day. We get it in, we put it out there. I send it to Casey, and for us, it's a way that we know from day to day where we're going and what's going on. And I have no idea how DOH comes to their numbers. I will say this much: the numbers for all 3 hospitals are for their hospitals, both in Escambia and Santa Rosa County. We felt like we needed something system-wide to understand what was happening in both counties. For the most part, over half the people wake up in Santa Rosa County every morning. They come work in Escambia County. So I think from the way the hospital views things, from the way businesses view things, it's very much of a 2-county area. So from our standpoint, there was some early on discussion, do we just get Escambia numbers? And we kind of went back and forth, and the hospital said they want to do Escambia and Santa Rosa, and I said, that's fine with me. I think that does show up, but it's the 3 hospitals, HCA West Florida, which is Ascension, which is Sacred Heart, and Baptist Healthcare, which also includes Gulf Breeze, and HCA includes Santa Rosa Medical. So those are their numbers. We get them. If they go down, they'll show it going down. If it goes up, it goes up. It has not gone down in about 2 or 3 weeks. Before that, we fluctuated. We'd go up, we'd go down, we go up, we go down. But really, it is stayed on an upward trend. Yesterday was kind of good because we only went up 2. We were at 114 on Saturday, went to 116 on Sunday. I know I've seen both Baptist and West Florida while I've been on my computer here talking to y'all. They've sent emails in. So very shortly we'll have Monday's numbers and we'll sort of know where we are. But that's the number we've been following. And it is interesting. We've started talking back with the hospital directors on a weekly basis. March and April, we are talking every week. We kind of went to an every other week. And then, with this recent increase, we've said, we need to get back to more like a weekly basis and talking with each other. So again, this seems to be where we are. We'll continue to stay in touch and try to keep you updated and let you know what's happening.
And this question is from Jeremy. I was hoping to slip through the press conference without this coming up, but Jeremy asked, what did you get both Casey and Jim for their birthdays today? Because today's actually my birthday and I share a birthday with Jim Little. I don't know if he's on here. I haven't seen any questions from him, but happy birthday to Jim.
Happy birthday.
I'd like to know what you got us for our birthdays.
Happy birthday to Jim. Right now, I don't think I have you anything, but you know, we'll get you a nice. For Casey, I did walk in this morning. I saw there's a nice big chocolate cake sitting on our counter. Jim, if you want to come over to City Hall, we'll if you wear a mask, we'll let you in. We'll get you a piece of cake. But I did see Casey does have a cake out there. So happy birthday, Casey. Happy birthday, Jim. I'm sorry I didn't get you anything more, Jim. I would have planned better if I'd thought about that. Thank you, Jeremy. Next time, give me a little bit more heads up warning.
Right. And this is from John at Studio 850. How is passenger traffic at Pensacola Airport? Is it improving?
You know, that's interesting. Matt's just taken over. Last week was Matt's first week on the job. I haven't gotten numbers from Matt. I probably need to ask him where we are. Dan was pretty good about sending those. I probably just need to get them to Matt. I haven't seen. I know before Dan left, we had increased we were going up to just over 2,000 people a day. Now, let me remind you that when this thing hit, we were at 3,400 a day before we started feeling the effects. In April, late April, early May, we were down to 200 people per day. We're now back up to 2,000. So we went down to about 7%. Now we're up to about 2/3. So we're slowly but steadily increasing. But obviously there are lots of challenges. Obviously, I think the most recent increase, and it's not just here in Escambia County or in Florida, it really is across the nation. When I've watched the news, the national news, and seen what's going on, people are still flying. People are still traveling. Some I was out at the beach over the weekend. I went out there. I felt like we could socially distance. Had a great day. The water was unbelievably beautiful on Saturday on 4th of July. But I saw tons of license plates and everything from all over the country. So there are clearly a lot of people here, but we'll just have to keep watching and seeing what's going to happen. But otherwise, we'll just continue to follow what's going to happen at the airport and hope that we're pushing better numbers, but understanding that perhaps right now we're not as, we're a little bit concerned about about who comes in as well. So, we want to see the numbers go up, but we are a little concerned as to where the numbers are and if that's increasing any of our exposure. So again, at this point, we're just kind of wait and see. And I don't think this is going to be a great year for the airport. We were very fortunate through the CARES Act. We did get some funding to help us support this year's operations and even next year's operations. So I think we'll see where we are. But as we get a better control on the virus, as they learn better protocols for air traffic, we'll probably see that increase.
This is from Jeremy. Has the city issued any tickets for not wearing a mask or been contacted about the order not being observed?
I will say this much. I had a lot of people last week. This weekend, I didn't get much input from people. It seemed to be everywhere I went, I really saw good mask compliance in different places I was in. And I was impressed to see that there were people there. People are still shopping, but everybody seemed to be in mask, and that was a good thing to see. So I think from that standpoint, it does seem to be working, that people are wearing it. I did hear earlier in the week some places that didn't. We've tried to go to a few places with code enforcement. I know I've yet to sit down with Keith, but I know that's one of the things we wanted to talk about is what code enforcement was going to do, and also law enforcement just kind of go into places, making them aware of what the requirement was and getting people to do that. Obviously, that's our goal at this particular time. And we'll see kind of where we go from there but for the most part, we seem to be seeing people comply, and I thought that was very good. There are a few people, obviously, that have called me, sent me stuff on Facebook, social media, emailed me about different places that haven't complied, and we'll work through that. But I tell you what, it's not as crazy as it was in March. In March, I mean, I used to get emails all the time that were like, "Hey, my neighbor is talking to my other neighbor, please send PPD over here now. You know, to an extent, we're getting more comfortable with understanding what social distancing is, what we can and can't do. And I generally see good compliance. I mean, you know, I got, like I said, early in the week, I got a few places that said they weren't complying, but by the weekend, I mean, when I was out, you know, I went to several local stores and several national chain stores, and everybody seemed to be wearing masks.
This is from Rebecca at Channel 3. 2 county commissioners expressed concerns about what's happening in the Tanyard community with 400,000 townhouses going up, or sorry, 400, I think she meant $400,000 townhouses going up, and many who live there are being priced out of the neighborhood. Do you have any similar concerns that affordable housing is not being built?
Well, we're working on that right now. I mean, we've got a, with Jewel, we've got a housing task force out there that's looking to create 500 affordable units in the area. And so we're seeing that. I will say, for the most part, we're not seeing dislocation has been good. What we've seen is people building on lots that previously were vacant, or some of which were vacant commercial, as you look on Main Street, what we had. But you know, you also look at what happened with the old school. All of those places were there weren't any homes taken down or anything else. What we've got now are places that had no homes, no residential, and bringing new income, new people in there with mixed income. I think that's a good thing for a neighborhood to experience mixed income. It's one of the things that we want to do with the program that, you know, is happening at this point. I know Commissioner May kicked off you know, we had about 4 lots, and we're trying to make those into a few more lots, opportunities for more housing. We think can happen. All of those were in the city where we're, you know, I think from our standpoint, we're fairly excited about what's going to happen over time. And we think that we're going to see, I know it's been one of the big things for Jewel is getting this initiative going, this 500 units in 5 years. So we've got a number of things that are happening. We're going to bring affordable housing to Pensacola and really try to, again, disperse and have mixed income, which we think is very productive for the community in those neighborhoods.
This is from Jeremy. What exactly does mostly in the yellow mean, and what would constitute moving to red?
I think our fire, our police, and now the hospitals are all yellow. So that's mostly yellow. I mean, everything that we were measuring on our dashboard is yellow at this particular time. You know, we'll continue to monitor with those and see where we go, what ends up happening in red. Personally, I'd like to stay away from I'd like to close as few things as possible. I'd rather see us be more vigilant about our practices, social distancing, washing hands, wearing masks. If we can do those 3 things, I think we can be open. You know, May showed that we can be open and still be able to keep low numbers. In fact, our numbers in May were lower than our numbers in April. Our numbers in June were lower than our numbers. At the beginning of June were lower than our numbers in April. So it wasn't till we kind of had some events that I think people had sort of begun to think that we didn't need to do as much social distancing. We didn't need to wear masks, and we weren't washing our hands as religiously as we had been. I think that's when we saw this rampant increase. So I don't think it's really the closings that stop it. I think it's more our individual actions and attitudes and what we do. And it's one of the reasons I think, you know, I was excited over the weekend. I did see a lot of people wearing masks. I think if we go back to where we were, what we thought about in April, I think that's probably a better place for us to be.
This is from Jeremy as well. Have you communicated with the state regarding antibody testing?
Have not at this particular time. I mean, it's kind of something we've talked about with the hospitals, but at this particular time, we're still very focused on going through it right now. What we're going through. So, you know, from my standpoint, I think if the hospitals can continue to work to find ways to handle it and treat people in the hospital, I think we do that, and we end up seeing also at the same time, it does appear, you know, these things tend to mutate. As they mutate, they become less virile. We can't say that for sure is happening right now in the United States, but what we are seeing that it come from Europe, some studies indicate that is kind of what's happening. So if we can stay on top of these two things, I'm hoping we'll sort of get to a point where we can figure out where we go. Again, I'm not so sure. I mean, I hear a bunch of things, and everybody talks about vaccines and everything else. I'm not sure what happens with vaccines or what happens with a variety of other things with antibodies. We'll see what happens. But I tend to look at more what these coronaviruses have done in the past, whether it's SARS or MERS or what's happened with them, and they generally we've learned how to treat them better, and then they become less virile. And I think over time that's what we can see, but we're not there yet. And so we need to maintain vigilance through this summer and just keep working it.
This is from John at Studio 850. Could you explain again how the members of the Citizens Police Advisory Committee were chosen? Was there public input?
There were 7 people chosen by the council members. And again, they chose theirs. I chose 5. Mine were and looking to make sure that we had people on there who had expressed interest in ideas of what they wanted the committee to do and function on. So again, mine were very much chosen in terms of representing different audiences and making sure that we were well-rounded with what the picks the council members had. I can't answer in particular what the council members did one way or another. They made their own choices.
And this is from Jeremy. Is the city in contact on any level with the school district regarding reopening? Malcolm Thomas has said that schools within the city will not be under the city's mask ordinance. Thoughts?
I mean, we certainly understand that. I mean, this is one of the things we've said. There are exemptions for all jurisdictions that operate within the city limits. Obviously, they have control over their own jurisdictions and their own properties, whether it's the state, the feds, or the county or the school board. So we certainly understand, and our goal was to control what we could control. And if other people want to do things, they're welcome to do it. At this particular time, I mean, everything I've heard is I think things were going back. So I think kids will go back. Obviously, they seem to have less transmission in that age group. It's not impossible to transmit from that age group, but it is less transmissible than what we've seen other places. So, especially the early education side. So we'll see what happens and then go from there and see. The school board will have to make decisions from that point, what they're going to do. So. That's really going to be up to them where they choose to go and how they do. This weekend, I was with a teacher. My wife teaches. I was with a teacher with Escambia County. She was talking about, not knowing whether they were going to do some in class and maybe some virtual. So I think all those things are still kind of up in the air, and they're waiting to hear, what they're going to do and make decisions. And I would totally think they're probably waiting to see what happens with the numbers as we go through, because that probably will influence some of their decisions. So I totally understand right now if they're waiting to see what happens, I'd probably be in the same position.
And this is from Rebecca at Channel 3. What are your thoughts about the Palafox restaurants pulling the plug last week and not even doing takeout orders?
I mean, it's up to them if they want to do takeout, if that's what they want to do. Again, how they want to handle it. From our standpoint, we're not trying to force anybody to close. We want to work with them and make it as accessible for them. If they want to be open, if they feel it's too risky for them and their customers and their employees, I mean, that's their choice. I mean, everybody has choices they can make. That's the great thing about the freedom we have to make choices. If some people decide to do something else, we're trying to, at the city, I think we're trying to make sure we give people as many options and as many choices to figure out how they can operate. But if they choose not to operate, that's their choice.
And this is from John at Studio 850. Regarding the recent letter to you from State Representative Mike Hill regarding federal law prohibiting removing veteran cenotaphs from public property, has the city attorney confirmed that this law applies to the Lee Square Monument?
I'd have to talk to Susan. I have not talked to her specifically about that, so I would have to talk to Susan. But we'll certainly look into it. I mean, we got a lot of stuff that's coming to council right now. We've got options for if they want to move it, where they can go. Then we've got options for them on what prices are. We've got options on them on what the legal requirements are. So we'll have lots of different things for them to decipher as they make their decision next week.
All right, and I am not seeing any more questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We will see you through the week, and I think we'll be back on. Casey and I'll be back on Wednesday, so we'll be discussing COVID. I know a little bit more after talking with the hospitals about where we go, but thank you very much, and happy birthday, Jim and Casey.